live. Colder morning.
And it was cold out there this morning in the ocean.
13 degrees. But what an adventure.
Yes.
To get out there every morning.
Yes.
Oh, I get chilly.
Every day the ocean is completely different.
Yes.
You know? It's like a woman. Every day it's just completely new and different.
But she's always there.
Yes.
She keeps coming at you.
I don't know why you got to make it a negative thing. I was thinking about it like a great adventure.
With waves of nagging.
That's not at all how I view women.
No. After yesterday's conversation.
I mean, okay, I'll leave it there. So.
But yes, let's talk about adventure. Adventure and...
Speaking of adventure, Muhammad Abdallah is watching. He was a guy, when I was in Uganda in 2015, I'd bribed some, well, the rumor is I'd bribed some police officers to take me across country through the middle of the night and arrest some young criminals who had helped start a business and get the vehicle back that my brother had paid for to invest in these guys' business.
And they hadn't paid you back.
They didn't pay shit for 8 months, and we threw him in the cell, in the locker, in the jail, and then this he worked for the Indian car company, who
Mohammed.
Yes.
Okay.
Was going to help me negotiate the deal. It's a long story, man, but great adventure. Great adventure.
Adventure. Hello, Mohammed. Yeah, we were talking yesterday, and like I move in the area of my main coaching is with guys that want to get better with women, and they come and ask. They think about it as like a set of skills and techniques they can put in place so they can get more women. And as they grow in it, they see there's a more profound issue of like themselves, and I got to work on myself and become a better version of myself to be more attractive too. And both can seem daunting, but the number one thing I think a guy can do right now to become more attractive and to have more women in his life is to go on an adventure. You know, to go on an adventure and really live that.
Well, and to make his own life attractive to himself and make himself attractive to himself. It's like coming alive. And women and other people want to be around people who are alive.
Right.
You know, and it's that just the cells, you know, people who are alive. And
I'm thinking of Archie, your
yes.
friend, who his whole life, until when? 70?
75, no, like even later than that, later in his 70s, maybe 76, 77.
And the traditional...
At 75 or 76, his son talking about someone he met, who was me, about my adventures in Africa. And his son came to me and said, you know, Michael, will you talk to my father? He wants to come down here from Dallas just to talk to you. Will you just entertain him? I was like, well, hell yeah. You know, I love talking about Africa. And he came down, and man, I come so alive when I talk about Africa. And it you know, was in him, but it was way far out of his reality.
But you're his call to adventure. And somehow he answers it.
Yes.
Late in life, 70,
yes.
Whatever. And from going on that one trip to Africa, his whole life changed.
Yes. So now, 6 years later, he's now married to a Kenyan woman. 40 years his junior, and living in the countryside. And he's gone, and he might never come back. He might die there and be buried in Africa. And this is a guy who, he was living a pretty normal American existence. Married, children. I think he was a school administrator. And after he retired, he was, I think, part-time, like a driving instructor at Sears. I mean, kind of just a real kind of normal, everyday American guy.
But a whole new life in Africa, that's so out there. We also said it completely changed the way people were, like in his family, people around him were looking at him.
Yes.
That one trip made him a completely different man when he came back.
He was no longer the guy who just talked about wanting to go to Africa one day. He's the guy who fucking did it. The only guy in the family, African American guy. And they would talk a lot about, making the pilgrimage back. Not only did he make the pilgrimage, he moved there.
Right.
Like the guy is like, he's living someone else's life in a way. It's a whole second chance at life.
Yes.
It's a whole new life.
Because what you said also, the son said, he'll never go. So the son is thinking, that's my dad, he's like this.
Yes.
He'll
I know
never
my
go.
father, yeah.
I know. He goes on one trip to Africa, and the son, his own son, looks at him like, what the fuck? That's a different man.
Yeah.
So imagine the effect that doing one trip can have on people just by you doing it.
Yes.
And we're not even talking about now about what it does to you when you go and you come back. You're a different man.
Yes.
You tell about your trips to Africa. It completely changed you.
Yes. Well, I would say that there are some principles to make it a real transformative adventure and not just a trip.
Right.
Because plenty of people can go on a trip or a vacation and come back and they're the same dude. And they think they've seen the world, and it's just like they went and they got some photos and they came back and they can show people their photos and tell people their stories, but it wasn't transformative.
We're not talking about tourism. We're talking about travel.
Yes. And I think like there's even levels to it, right? Like we showed up without much of a plan, and we showed up to give. We came to just connect and give without our specific agenda. And like giving is something that you're not in control of whether people receive. You're not in control of what people do with that. It's kind of like you come giving, and then if people receive it, and then they invite you, and then other things happen, and then like magic starts happening, So I think a lot of times people, even if they're going going to give somewhere like Africa, it's a very kind of service mission. They know what they're coming with. And it's easy to go thinking, well, we have what they need. We're going to help them. I'm quite clear. I was impacted at least as much as even the most impacted people that we interacted with there were. Now,
So what we're talking about is not any form of tourism, which is you go there with a plan or, even with a return ticket. Imagine you don't have a return ticket. That often sets tourism apart from traveling.
We had a return ticket, except that the woman booking our tickets, who was my partner on the journey, she messed it up. So it turns out we didn't have the return ticket.
That's what
we
made
stayed
it
there
all,
an extra week.
That's what made it all so great. But yes, just thinking that you go on this trip, you go on a travel, how much it could do with yourself, how much it could do for the people around you. I see the incredible transformative power of one single trip can have on you.
Yes.
Like just to go out there instead of trying to, let's say with women, instead of trying to learn skills, instead of trying to become a different man, and focusing on that, like that, take that one time out of the year, say a month, and I'm going to go a place where and I'm going to live there. I'm going to be part of the fabric, I'm going to grow some roots there even, or whatever. I'm going to connect with people there. it will completely change you, you know?
You know, in 2016 and 17, I created and led a whole course on like how to travel in this way. There's really a lot of subtleties, you know, because what do we do when we're getting ready to go into the unknown? We want to make everything as comfortable as possible because it's the unknown. We fear the unknown. We could die in the unknown. You know, our nervous system, our whatever is saying, I don't know about this. So it's normal to make it as comfortable as possible. And how do you do that? You make it as familiar as possible.
Yes.
You make it as safe as possible. And then you're not really in the unknown when you go.
Yeah, so a good parameter would be like you feel a little scared. It is risky.
Well, and you don't plan it all out first. You know, you don't, you know, a lot of people when they plan a trip, well, and it's understandable. Like if you have very little time, it's your one trip of the year, you only got 2 weeks, and then you got to be back at work for another 50 weeks straight. Yes. Imagine, you know, you want to get the most out of it. So you schedule every single day and all the things you want to do because you just want to cram the most in as possible. But, you know, most of us don't even live lives, especially I'm thinking of Americans, we don't even live lives where real adventure is possible because we expect ourselves to work 50 weeks out of the year.
That's why I say people say, oh, it's easy for you to travel. I need to make more money. No, you need to make more time. When you have time, you know, travel becomes possible.
Yes.
When you make time, travel is cheap or cheaper than staying in one city. Certainly any American city.
Yeah, for me, the best adventures were the unplanned ones. It's what happens. There's some quote like, adventure is what happens when your plans fall through, you know? It's like, okay, now we have to get from here to here, and we have no way to do it. We have no plan. We have no money. Now that, like, when your plans fall through, that's when adventure happens.
Yeah, it's in many ways, it's the complete opposite of like the Western way of productivity and planning and figuring it out. You know,
we talked about Archie becoming a whole new man. But I remember when I first started traveling and I was disconnected from everyone. My way of communicating was so like logical and serious in France and then at first in Brazil. People didn't want to connect with me. Even if I was speaking the language correctly, the energy I was putting out wasn't, you know. And I realized like the way I learned to cope and be successful and whatever in society in America was not going to take me on an adventure. It was not going to have me come alive. And that's when I started like hunting my tesao and speaking only from tesao. And that, we were talking about Archie becoming a whole, you know, living a whole new life, becoming a whole new person. That's very much what happened to me. You know, I stopped talking about who I am the way I used to, what I do. I stopped talking about that. I stopped promoting my business. I stopped, you know, I would even respond illogically to people's serious questions. You know, like my buddy Tom in Brazil, he would present me and, you know, here's this American guru or teacher or whatever. And he would call me his master. And he's like a 60-year-old guy, you know, very successful in Brazil. And he's presenting me as his master. And, you know, he wants to make money with me also, you know, so he's filling courses of having Brazilians come learn from this American master, you know. And, I'd show up in shorts and flip-flops and there's people we'd meet, business people, serious people would ask me like, what am I doing or whatever. And I would respond with nonsensical shit. And it was great because it gets people out of there thinking in a transactional way and it has them imagine, wow, what if I lived like that? Then people want to be around that energy, so they invite me to come stay with them. And like, it was a whole new way of living life for me.
What's interesting to me is like, how does anyone who's in this Western way hears the call? Because I know a lot of guys hear the call in some way. What makes the difference between answering the call and not answering it? You had Africa. When I had when I was at university and I felt like something is not right, I met Zan, and Zan for me was a, thank you Zan, Zan for me was an invitation into adventure.
Yes.
You know, and instantly, you know, I saw it. You know, what I could travel. You know, I could travel talking to girls. You know, I could instantly. Yes, I have to do this. You know, so I heard the call and I instantly answered it. Maybe because I wasn't really deep into the Western ways. You know, I was working at university, but I had no real commitments. I had no. I don't know. And you were deep in your ways, and then you heard a call from Africa, or how did that go?
Yeah, well, my friend Robin, she heard my, desire to work with young people and to really make a difference with young people. And she invited me to Africa. And, she's crazy in a good way, crazy like I am. Like anything's possible kind of a thing. And all of my rational thinking about whether it's practical, responsible, how safe is it, all this stuff, it was like an eye roll to her, And I was like, how can she be so cavalier? And like, am I really that afraid or that limited in my thinking? Because I'm not a guy who's like limited in my thinking. I take pride in that, but I'm like, it really fucked with me that she also laughed about, the white man is scared of, going to the black man's land. Like, yeah, we walk around here in Texas and like oftentimes we're the only black person in the store or whatever. And yeah, you might be the whatever over there. And, but just all sorts of things like that, she just laughed at my whatever. And I kind of didn't like it in a way. What I didn't like is that, it seems she was like more wild and visionary and open and courageous and
Trusting
everything than me,
yeah.
And I was like, so part of it was, I gotta go.
I think that is adventure. Is to trust yourself that you're gonna guide yourself well into the unknown.
Well, let's talk about like trust yourself, because part of you is saying no, don't go.
Yes.
Right.
But yeah, I wanted to give an example, and let's talk about trust yourself. Like I remember talking to Zan, and we did the events.
Yeah, my Maasai brother Comyn watching from the Masai Mara in Kenya.
Comyn and Mohammed. I remember we're starting events, Zan and I, and we had events that would take, it's a 90-day program. We would go to one place, say Montreal, London, Austin, and then have a 90-day program and then come back. And I remember we were doing everything with very little money, little to none, we're always like, fuck. And I was doing the calculations of like how much money we have, or it's just testament to how great of a business it was when I'm doing it.
The fact that you counted the money?
Yes. Imagine that. And I said, Zan, listen man, we could do this, but we don't have money to go twice to, say, Montreal. We can't do it. 90 days. And he said, do we have money to go the first time? And I said, yeah. He said, we're going. And it's symbolic, but that's like, it is, you could do it. You do it now because you can.
Yes. And
then you trust yourself, life, whatever, that along the path,
yes,
the resources will come up.
Yes.
You can't plan ahead. In fact, you shouldn't. And it's
yes.
part of the being an adventure. And it's to hold yourself in that situation and all the other situations that come. That's what makes you have confidence. First you have trust in yourself. I'll do it. And then you have confidence because you've done it so many times.
Yeah, well, the very thing that can make you successful in, let's say, the American world, society, economy, is the very thing that can limit your adventure if you want to go out into the unknown and have an adventure. Because you learn that, time is money. And, but, time is money. And then you actually use your money to save time on the adventure. But if you want to have a real adventure, money is not the currency to be invited by the local people onto a real adventure. It's not money. If you want to pay for it, you're going to have a consumer experience, not a real experience, not a real adventure.
Right.
And the currency to them is time.
Yes.
So if you show up with time to connect, to give, all of this, it's that allows for something magical to happen.
Well, imagine all these entrepreneurs, these businessmen from the States, and they think in a certain way and they're productive in that certain way. Imagine they can also incorporate this adventurous spirit, where the currency is time and not money. That they learn, they start trusting themselves in that, and they have the confidence of that as well. And now they go back into business, and you can have that as well.
Yes.
How much more powerful of a businessman you will be, how much more powerful of an entrepreneur, because now you have two tools.
Yes. It's a whole new set of tools, right? For thriving in a whole new kind of environment. And it leads to more confidence, more adaptability, flexibility. I think it's a great, it's great to have that. But also just on the sense of aliveness, it gets boring after a while trying to be productive, efficient, the same thing. And you do it by doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. That's, guys who want to become like really productive and successful and intense, it's this just barreling through like this tunnel, I can be like that. I was like that for many years, and it's like, go harder, focus more, focus harder, drive harder. And that's a great thing to have. That's a great way to be able to call on. But like I said, when I went out into the world and other cultures who operate differently, like magic happens, things happen differently in other places. I had no ability to connect.
And can you sense now, like the work you've done before, and you're like focus going forward, and now you have this decade of traveling and adventure, so to speak, and now you're coming back to your work. Can you see that how you do your work can be more powerful, and the way you do business, the way you are an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's a challenge I'm exploring, because my tendency is to want to go back to how I did it when I used to make money. But before I took off to travel the world for 10 years, for that period of 4 years between my first and second trip to Africa, I was really exploring, like, why did I come so alive on that first trip? And a big part of it was the gifting. And I really got into gifting. And then I started gifting incredible things, including, one client gifted me, I almost don't want to say the number, but $80,000. And that was one time. If you consider the, in the grand scheme of things.
And that came because you had a lived adventure in a way.
She saw how much I was giving from my desire. Like, giving in a way is an adventure, because you feel it an irrational. It doesn't need to be a lot. Like, real giving is not, I'm giving you this so that you do that, or so that you give this back to me. That's not real giving, I would say. That's a trade or a transaction. Like, I saw, for example, in Thad, I saw a man saying, my heart calls me to stand up for this, and I'll face whatever comes. And that's the adventure he was living. And I said, fuck, I was so inspired by that. I was like, I got your back as your ally, whatever comes. So I went on that adventure, gifted him laptop, gifted him this, that, my trainings, work, being an ally, showing up as an ally, being a commitment to an ally, it puts you on an adventure, because it's not a transactional thing. It's not like I'll be your ally if you be my ally. No, it's I'm your ally, and then you're on an adventure, whatever comes. It's so interesting thinking about it like this, but it's really like that. And she saw how I was living my life like that, and she was like, I want to live like that. I want to support that in the world. And so she gave it to me, and she's like, like, I'm so inspired by you, but take this, do whatever you want with it. You can use it for your business or for yourself or whatever. Just here, this is my gift to you. And it was so beautiful and so powerful, but that wasn't the only thing. Well, that was the easiest $80,000 I ever made. You know what I mean? But I started having things like this happen that were like, wait a second, things are happening and I'm not making it happen. My whole life was like Ayn Rand, capitalism, determination, force, logic, drive, conquer, and I'm starting to like the first thing was Africa. Wow, magic. And then this client, magic, and then things like this. And that was, I started really becoming curious. What is this other way? And I had a couple key people show up. In fact, after my first trip back from Africa, I gifted my next big event, which was my big money maker. I gifted it to everyone, but only to people who really inspired me. And some of the people who showed up became like teachers for me in this other way, and they responded to the gift of it. They might not have responded to me selling it to them before. So it's like I was speaking a different language that they heard that they wouldn't have heard before. And then they spoke back to me in their way and opened new doorways to me. And it couldn't have happened by my like time is money and rational selfishness and like all of this kind of thing. It wasn't available, So I was like, wow. But O, for example, lived in that world, like cross-cultural. I saw this guy had almost like different lives, a French life, a Spanish life, and being, and the way he could connect with even Americans who were English-speaking Americans. I was like, this guy, he's a coyote. He can cross borders, he can shape shift, And I started really. He was my Zen in a way, I guess.
All from answering one call to adventure.
Yes. And we are hunting and exploring how we can be the catalyst for men wanting to launch a life of adventure.
Maybe this is your call to adventure. You got a chance to answer it and completely change your life around and change the way you are with women, change you are with money, change the way you feel about yourself, change the way people around you are looking at you.
And not even like you change it, but be transformed by the adventure.
Yes.
Not be in control of your change,
Not learning.
That's so boring.
Not learning skills, not learning techniques, not trying to become a different man. Just go on an adventure and let that do the work for you.
Backflipping into the unknown.
Like the grasshopper.
So I'll add to your what if here. What if success for you is not about money and things? What about it's what will really have you come alive? We're so conditioned to chase after certain things based on our societal conditioning. But what would a life be like designed for adventure? Your business designed to be the ship that takes you to the new world.
Your relationships designed to be adventurous.
Yes, designed to be a ship.
Yes.
To take you on a grand adventure. What if you think about relationship is not to end up in this predictable path that's a known entity in your society?
What if that relationship, say with a woman, is exactly one that steers you into adventure? What if your other relationships with your family, with your brothers, are ones that are calling you to adventure, like
even
being
with
an ally.
people you hire to be like a teacher or mentor, most people will choose someone who they know can take them where they think they need to go.
Yeah.
But it's different to actually say, wow, there's something I'm really drawn to this guy. I really feel a connection. I don't know where he's going to take me. I'm going.
I like this.
You know?
It's essential. It's essential that you don't know where you're going. It's essential that you're a
Or
little
real
afraid.
transformation,
Yes.
not adventure. Yes.
It's essential that it's risky. It's essential that you go, what the fuck? That kind of It's essential. That's the call you need to answer if you really want transformation and feel alive.
To awaken a whole new expression of your genes and neurology and aliveness.
Maybe this is the call.